Welcome to another edition of Express Talk. This is episode 4, and for this week of the podcast, I am with Nick from LetsPlayTEW. Thank you for joining me.
Glad to be here. Looking forward to talking about some crazy wrestling week, and looking forward to the banter.
Sounds good to me. So, let's jump right into it. With Backlash this past weekend, what did you think of the show?
I went into it with no expectations whatsoever. I wasn't even going to watch the show until basically the show started, and I didn't have anything else going on. So it was it was one of those things where I wasn't going to watch it at all, and then I was really glad that I watched it. So that ended up being a good show.
I agree. It ended up being a really good show.
I think a lot had to do with time too. It was a shorter show. It compressed. There were no filler matches. Well, there were still some, but there were less filler matches. Mm-hmm. So I think that had a good effect on how I felt about it.
I could agree with that, and unfortunately, we saw once again Randy Orton get taken out of commission. I don't want to say luckily, but it doesn't seem like it's a new injury. It seems like it's something that's been troubling him since SummerSlam, or the results of SummerSlam.
Yeah, it's definitely something where he seems to pick up something a lot lately, where over the last 2 years he's been, except for that run he had with the belts, he's been pretty injury prone. So I don't know if he's just getting older and getting a little more fragile, or if it's been a thing where he's just had a rough luck for the last year or two. But it seems like he's getting a new injury almost every storyline that he's in, and it's cutting all the storylines short.
Yeah.
And it is a shame that, as much as I'm not particularly a fan of Bray Wyatt, it is a shame that his storyline with Randy Orton, that could have been something that helped him, didn't get off the ground.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. I hope that even with Randy's injury, that this doesn't stop them from giving Bray and Randy a legitimate storyline, because at this point, I don't know if Randy's worth investing in, but Bray still is young enough and relatively healthy enough to where you can invest in him. Especially
with the state of SmackDown's higher level competition.
I agree.
You have, and it sort of falls off from there. You got, your next level of people in Orton and Bray and all that, but it seems like there's a big drop off, and they need someone to step up.
Well, I mean, that's where I think that Miz comes in, and after he drops the Intercontinental title, I think he could be a serious threat for the world title.
As possibly one of the world's biggest Miz marks, I couldn't agree more. But even with the Miz, and the Miz is such a good hand, and he's so good in the ring and on the mic, and he can carry storylines by himself sometimes, which he's currently doing with Ziggler, because Ziggler's not really adding anything to that story. But even that's only 3 people near the top, and one of them is a borderline top guy in Miz. So you need a bit more. You need about 6 or 7 bodies, even if they're borderline bodies, up near the top to keep getting fresh matchups and everything. And I look at SmackDown's roster, and I want SmackDown to be the better show because it has the better storylines right now. But I look at it and I think 6 months down the line, what are they going to be doing? And I can't think of much stories that they could tell with who they have currently.
I mean, unless they go the route of having long-term storylines, which would be
So
good.
It would be. It's not the way they book now, so I don't expect them to. But a lot of SmackDown has been unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
They've done a lot of backstage angles, which isn't really done on Raw. Backstage attacks, using the after show, the Talking Smack, to bolster up the storylines that they currently have. These are things that WWE hasn't been doing for the last 5 or 6 years that I particularly like, because I think it adds a different element to storylines where it makes things seem more real. Obviously, everyone was talking about The Miz and Daniel Bryan because it seemed so authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And the more authentic things feel, the more invested the audience is in the outcome.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, now that you said...
It's a shame they sort of dropped the ball.
Yeah, it is a shame.
Yeah, it's a shame they sort of dropped the ball with Miz. But...
Yeah. I was going to ask what you thought about the promo from Miz, but since you said you're a big Miz mark, I think I know the answer.
Yeah, I mean, his movies aside, because his movies aren't good, but The Miz is the best actor they have. If they need someone to go out and play a part, The Miz is the best person besides possibly John Cena to go out and do that. His face, his body language, everything that he does is the part that he's supposed to be playing. And that's one of the things that I've always liked about Miz, because he's not the most athletic in the ring, and he's not the best wrestler, or even close to the best wrestler. But he is the best portrayer of roles. He's the best actor in the WWE. And that promo that he did, I would bet all the money that I have that it was not a shoot, that it was planned from the beginning. Because I think Miz respects Daniel Bryan too much to do that to him if it wasn't planned. So, like, the guy, Mike Mizanin, respects Bryan Danielson too much to do that. So I think the Miz hates Daniel Bryan, has hated Daniel Bryan from the beginning, and all the storyline elements are there for him to have that explosion. And he played that part perfectly, because you felt like he exploded. Like, years of frustration just came out at once.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fantastic television.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say that they did come out and say that the Miz's promo from Talking Smack was planned, but he did not exactly go along with the script. But because of how well it went over, he did not catch any heat backstage. And also no heat with Daniel Bryan either. But my question is, do you think that this is the best period, like, that Miz has finally reached his prime as far as an in-ring competitor?
In-ring, yes. I think his promos leading up to winning the belt from his Money in the Bank cash-in were some of the best work that he's done on the mic. But as far as putting it all together in a package, yeah, he's at his peak right now. And
I think with the fact that Jericho is by far the best he's been in years, I think that, that's really helping WWE with some of the veterans finally hitting their strides as far as putting it all together again.
I think a lot of it has to do with them getting the space to breathe as well. Maybe the two shows, getting people apart from each other, getting people more time to talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing them a benefit, especially talkers like Miz and Jericho. We're seeing them have more time to flesh out characters, find what works, and then hit on that note again and again.
Well, I know I didn't include it on the format, but I usually do. But what was, with the fact that we're almost a month into the actually no, 2 months into the brand split, and Clash of Champions is right around the corner. Oh, what is your take on the brand split so far?
SmackDown is getting my vote because it's 2 hours, not 3. And 3 hours to sit through is... It feels way longer than an hour more when you're watching it.
Yeah.
SmackDown flies by, and Raw feels like, in like hour 2, it really starts to feel like you've been watching it for the whole day. But talent-wise, Raw has it by far. You have almost all of the young and exciting talent that I want to watch. It's just a matter of how long I have to sit and watch it. As far as pay-per-views, I mean, SmackDown's the only one that had a brand-specific one, but judging by it, SmackDown tells better stories, and it has me more excited. So right now I'm giving the edge to SmackDown as a whole. Whether like the idea works or not, I would say it's working very well. But then you get matches like we had last night, like what was it, Jinder Mahal and Jack Swagger, and it's just that's where you start to realize, okay, they're scratching the bottom of the barrel trying to put stuff together here. So until we get more NXT guys or the cruiserweights on Raw, it's going to be touch and go. But I think once they get both rosters up to where they want them to be, then I think it's going to be a fantastic idea. And like I said, it's giving people time to breathe and do what they want to do.
Yeah. I completely agree. But I will say this. I mean, I think even, because I'll call on your, TEW history here from, booking 1994, that, the right type of enhancement match is good even on the A show, because you're giving talent time to, get themselves over.
Right, and momentum in TEW is a big thing, and I do think it's a big thing in real life, where you look at a guy like Braun Strowman, who is nothing special in the ring. He has a decent look, but because he's been just murdering people week in, week out, it's an enjoyable character, and people are starting to get behind it. Even if it's slow to get behind, they're getting behind it, and the more he wins, the more they'll get behind it. And you have someone like Dolph, who can't catch a win to save his life, and no one's buying in. No one cares. The entire Dolph and Miz had a fantastic, I think it was over a 20-minute match, and no one cared, because everyone knew who was going to win, and it wasn't going to be Dolph. And that's the sort of thing where, like you said, the enhancement matches, the squash matches, they build up characters to matter. Like, yes, if Dolph was facing the guy that Braun was facing, he would win. But he's not, and he's not winning, so no one cares. And that's where the brand split's been helping a lot as well, I think. So it's a good call out there.
Yeah. Well, but that's also my question. Like, when Kurt Hawkins makes his debut, which, by the way, I actually think he's making his debut on this episode of SmackDown, does that mean that he's going to be used the same way as Jinder is on Raw?
I think it wouldn't be a bad idea, because he has that goofy, almost Slater-esque character, so I could see people getting behind him even if he loses a bunch. So, just from what I've seen from like the fact stuff that he's doing now, he could easily turn into a Heath Slater like character. And look at how over Heath got just by losing a lot. Like he was able to turn that into, just because of his charisma, into something good. So giving talent opportunities will allow you to assess who is actually talented, or at least allow WWE to assess who is actually talented, who the crowd wants to see. They were able to see that with Heath just by sending him out there on TV, letting him talk with Brock Lesnar. You're like, oh, this guy, he can talk, he's good. And they kept giving him the ball, and he kept running with it. So it's Kurt could do something similar, hopefully. I'm rooting for him. I liked him back in the Edgehead days, so.
Yeah. As did I. Now we move on, where, now is when we dial up the dirt sheets and take a look at the, interesting stuff from around the wrestling world. And I think that there's no better place to start than from UFC 203.
Yeah. As a wrestling fan and not an MMA fan, there's really only one thing that I can talk about here, and that is Mr. Punk. He didn't do too good. That's not an impressive showing there in MMA.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, if you're going to go. And he went all in. He was super pumped about it. He obviously put his best foot forward. It didn't look like he was mailing it in or just doing it for the money. He went out there. He wanted to do something, and he did it. And I got tons of respect. Step up to the plate and strike out. Man, it's better than sitting at home on your couch. So I got tons of respect for him, and I don't think we'll see him in WWE for a very long time, if ever. So that might be the last time we see him on a big stage. So it's a shame that it had to be like that. But he was one of my favorites. Obviously, a lot of people had him as a favorite. But if that is the last time we see him on a big stage, it's a shame, because I was hoping he'd at least have a good showing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect him to win, but a good showing would have been nice.
Mind you, he may have done pretty bad, but no enhancement needed.
No. Well, I mean, I don't want to jinx it, because it took Brock a couple weeks for his pop to hit. But I would almost put money on the fact that Mr. Punk did not do anything. I don't think CM Punk's going to be taken down for a drug test.
Yeah.
That would be the ultimate of fall from graces. So I think, yeah. I mean, he went out. He got his head punched in and he got choked out. But whatever, man.
Mm-hmm.
You go out there, you do you. I have done very, very minimal amount of martial arts when I was younger, and as someone who has been in that situation where you're up against someone who's at a higher belt class than you, and I think Punk is a brown belt, and I think he was a black belt, I'm not sure, but you're not going to win. You go in knowing almost that you're not going to win, but you go in trying to do your best. And there was a severe mismatch from the beginning. I don't think anyone in UFC expected Punk to win. It just would have been nice to see a better showing.
Mm-hmm.
No respect lost or anything like that.
Yeah, I agree. I have tremendous respect for Punk for attempting it, and honestly, I think that it could have been handled better by the UFC, because what they should have done was either waited longer, not offered him the contract, or had him go through the Ultimate Fighter. Like Kimbo Slice.
Yeah, Ultimate Fighter would have been... Well, it would have been good, but I think they paid Punk a lot of money, and they made a lot of money off of Punk. So for the two of them, it was beneficial to do it this way. I can certainly see that.
Yeah.
Now, reputation-wise, are both of their reputations hurt a little bit? Maybe, but I don't think it's anything that either one of them can't recover from. Punk, if he ever went back to WWE, just has to cut one promo, and no one cares anymore what happened in MMA. And UFC is going to have another show, and no one's going to care about CM Punk, at least in the MMA world. So neither one of their reputations are tarnished too bad. So at the end of the day, both parties made money. More power to him. Punk got to live out his dream. More power to him. And he says he's going to try again. I don't think it'll be in UFC, but again, you want to go to Bellator, or you want to go to, I don't know, maybe even a local Chicago-based MMA place and try your luck there, maybe actually get a win or two, go for it, man. You do you. It's his dream. And if he wants to keep fighting and doing it, eventually age is going to catch up, though, because he's 38 now, so.
Mm-hmm. Well, but now the question is, what is the percentage chance, if you had to put a percent on it, what is the percentage chance that CM Punk ever ends up back in a wrestling ring? Not the WWE, just a wrestling ring.
As an active wrestler, or ever in a ring again. Because as an active wrestler, I'd say like 25, but in a ring, I'd say like 90. Like, he could come back and be a manager, he could come back and be a commentator, he could come back and just talk to people and get them into a building. But as a actual professional wrestler again, it's, especially in the WWE, it's a long grind, and I don't know if he wants to do it anymore.
Yeah, I can agree with that, and I would probably be around the same percentage as you. I mean, if I was Punk and the desire was still there just to be in the wrestling business, I might, go look at a local Chicago-based company to try and help them out and help out the locals. Even if, it's going to Ace Steel and helping out his training academy or something of that nature.
There's plenty of good companies in the Midwest that he could turn from a indie darling to the next ROH if he wanted to, just by showing up. So he has the ability to shift the pendulum if he ever wants to. It's just, he also can do tons of other things. He's into writing comic books and all sorts of other stuff. I think he just wants to see what's out there right now and what he can do. So.
Yeah, that's true. Well, now, even though I'm not going to follow the format in the right way, who really cares, we're going to go with the quicker topic. I know you mentioned before we started recording that you don't really pay too much attention to Ring of Honor, but as far as the, instead of taking it from the perspective of a fan, what about from the perspective of, a booker? Say you're playing TEW, would you, how likely would you be to actually bring in the 6-man belt?
So it makes sense to me, as someone who only watches ROH when it intersects with New Japan, that they would have a 6-man belt because of how much cooperation they have with New Japan and how much New Japan loves 6-man tag matches. So that part makes sense. Now, Ring of Honor, the 6-man title all depends on your roster and how much depth it has to it, because in order for you to get new and fresh matchups for a 6-man, you need 2 or 3 new bodies in the match every time you do a match. So do you have enough bodies to bring in to do this, or are you going to have to loan out and get people from other companies, from New Japan, or get other indie people to come in and have matches for this 6-man belt? Or are you just going to do kind of what New Japan did with the Never 6-man belt and just run the same matches again and again and just swap the belt every time you do the match? If they do that, then it's a terrible idea and they shouldn't do it. If they have the bodies, which I don't think Ring of Honor does, then if you have the bodies, then it's a belt. Belts matter, so having a 6-man belt could matter. All depends on how it's presented.
Well, I will also say this, that they, because of their cooperation with New Japan, have also formed somewhat of a working agreement with CMLL, as New Japan being the mutual partner, because of the long-term relationship between those two companies. And everyone knows how big trios matches and the trios belts are in Mexico, partially because of Lucha Underground. But, I guess what I'm saying is they have another company at their disposal.
Yes, and that could definitely help them as well. It all depends on how much, where on the card this 6-man tag, and I presume low, but where on the card it's going to be, and how often you're going to have it defended. If it's only at pay-per-views, it's probably not a problem to have it defended and have new challengers for it. But if it's something you bust out on TV, then you're going to have a big issue trying to find contenders. And if I was booking it in TW, that's what I would think about. Am I just going to be using this on pay-per-views and make it something special? Or am I going to have to try and sprinkle it in on TV as well, because then it'll give me big problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. That's, but, sorry, I lost my train of thought. That's part of the reason why I don't know if the six-man belts really fit in, modern wrestling, because, they were so big back during the I would say so big, but I can only name one company in the United States that had the six-man titles. I guess, like, they were more fitting in the 80s than they are now, is what I'm trying to say.
I can see that, and definitely, I think, it has to do with saturation. How much wrestling you're putting out, how often this belt is going to be brought out. So, in the 80s, there was less saturation.
Mm-hmm. Delete or decay?
Alright. Yeah. So, Delete or Decay was to me, and I'm probably not going to win any favor by saying this, Delete or Decay was the knockoff version of the New Day and Wyatt's knockoff version of the Final Deletion. It was bad to me. I did not like it at all. And I have nothing against the people in it. Like Crazy Steve and Abyss are acceptable. They did their jobs. Matt's obviously the best part of any of these. And Jeff Hardy did his little piece as well. And all the other players did what they were supposed to. It's just the continuity was all over the place. People were fighting by the lake, then by the pool, then here, then there, without any real... Like in the Final Deletion, as crazy as it seemed, everything was linear. It made sense where they were going. Okay, they're fighting at the ring, then they're running away from the ring, and he's hiding behind a boat, so now they're fighting by a lake. And then the lake leads to the ending spot in the hill. And all of that sort of made sense. And in this one, it seemed like they jumped all over the place for no reason, and it just seemed less thought out and more, what random spots can we put into this that would be wacky and innovative, but didn't really tell a cohesive story. And at the end of the day, like, the Final Deletion was a storytelling gimmick, and this just seemed like a gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people liked it too, which I feel bad for, like, being very negative about something a lot of people like, because I try and remain very positive about wrestling. But that, honest thoughts, not as good as the original, and overall as a storytelling vehicle, not good at all.
I have to completely agree with you. I think that doing another match like that so soon brings down the importance and the uniqueness of the match. And, yeah, I get it. Oh, delete. You gotta do the same match. You gotta do it the same way. I get that, but why would you do it so soon after he just versed Jeff in that match?
Yeah, and it does kind of smell of desperation. Like, oh, everyone's already forgetting, and maybe the shine's coming off the golden goose, so we need to get another egg out of it before it's gone. But I don't know, it could have been a lot better, but maybe it was also because it was so soon and I'm comparing it to the Final Deletion instead of, like, watching it on its own. But I do have Final Deletion fresh in my mind from, beginning of the summer, I think, not even 3 months ago. And it's just, it doesn't hold up at all.
Yeah, I could agree with that, and, that's I mean, I don't want to... I'm not going to blame anyone in TNA. You know, I, for one, hate Matt Hardy's broken gimmick. I mean, do I think that it's a good gimmick? Yeah. Because it's different. It's completely different from anything Matt has done in his entire career. And with that being the case, it's extending his career. Because for once, he's an effective heel in a major company.
Mm-hmm. It's just, in this, I don't even think he's a heel. Because there's just inconsistencies all over the place. And his character works better as a crazy heel than, like, a sympathetic good guy. And it's hard to boo someone who's protecting their family, even if they're crazy.
It's TNA, of course it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Maybe I'm still back in 2006 wishing that TNA would be better, but I hoped that maybe they could build momentum off of this, but I think deep down inside I know that it's not going to happen.
Hey, I mean, I took the ball with the company and doing, you know, a Let's Play with TNA in 2016. I mean, I'm not going to say that I don't like it. I do. But it's just so difficult to establish a clear-cut direction because, you know, the WWE guys are way up top. You know, Angle and Jeff Hardy, and then you have the TNA guys, and then you have, I mean, the TNA originals, then you have, you know, the other guys, and you look at TNA's roster, and you see how it is now compared to how it was in January. Kurt Angle's not there anymore, Eric Young's not there anymore, Bobby Roode, James Storm left again, no, I said Kurt Angle already. You know, but, you know, you compare it to the, you know, popularity-wise, in the game, Angle's a 70, Jeff's a 70, you know, and Ethan Carter is a 45 or whatever, you know, so it's like, how bad would the shows be if you had the database in April?
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, I've been saying for a couple of years that they were a indie company with national stars, and now they don't even have the national stars. So it's just an indie company at this point with a TV show. And I mean, Matt and Jeff are doing everything they can.
Yeah.
But I honestly, I don't think it's long before they lose that TV spot as well. Mm-hmm. And who knows where they go from there, if they just YouTube or what have you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I will say that at the beginning of the, you know, TNA Let's Play, I did say that I feel like somebody just needs to stabilize the company. And, you know, will they be a number 2 in the United States? I think New Japan has more of a chance to be a number 2 in the United States than Ring of Honor or TNA. No offense to Ring of Honor or TNA, it's just that it'll take too long for TNA to get the fans' trust back, and Ring of Honor is not going to invest the money in the product to make the production better. So there's no way either one of them can be number 2.
Right, I agree.
But I also don't know that Billy Corgan is the right person to stabilize the company.
Time will tell, but I'm not optimistic.
And, you know, for anyone who's listening or watching or however you're hearing this, seeing this, whatever, the reason why I don't like Billy Corgan, because this is the second, this is the second time on the podcast that I'm actually bashing Billy Corgan. If you go back to when when Destination America made it public that they were not renewing TNA, one of the people, I believe it was John Gaborik as the other one, but Billy Corgan was one of the people who basically came out and, you know, was so vehemently against anyone who was telling the truth about TNA and how, if they don't stop, they're going to get sued and all this stuff. if Dixie is from a PR background, then how in the hell could she let anyone from her company speak out on something like that? Especially when she knows Dave Meltzer was reporting the truth.
Yeah, that's, I mean, TNA hasn't exactly had a upstanding history of handling rumors well, or creating rumors well, for that matter. They have tried using the internet to their advantage, and it's almost always failed. And then anytime the internet turns on them, they act with shock and appall that the internet would possibly turn on them. So, I think WWE's way of being like, the internet doesn't exist. We're not going to talk about it. Look at what's on Twitter. We don't care about wrestling reporting. Like, that's the best way of handling it. Because once you start, like, giving into it, you're just calling more attention to the story. And that's the ironic piece of all that. Is like, by vehemently denying it, you're just calling more eyes to the story itself. So, I could see where your lack of faith is stemming from.
I completely agree with you, and, you know, I'll go back, you know, I'll just make this one more point and then we'll move on. But I'll go back to a post I did last year when I compared TNA and WCW. And the one difference, I think it was supposed to be a 3-part series, but it was only a 2, but that doesn't matter. But the one of the differences I pointed out, was that the parent company cared about TNA. Now, I don't know for sure that Turner Broadcasting did not give 2 shits about WCW. I will never know that unless I get to talk to somebody from Turner Broadcasting, but it's very clear that Panda Energy cared about TNA. And that's why, in the tweet, when I tweeted out the post, I thanked Dixie Carter for caring about TNA. So, I have nothing but respect for Dixie for investing so much and caring so much about the company, but I think she made the dumbest mistake selling the company or giving up power in the company to Billy Corgan.
I would agree. I think, so, I'm going to preface this carefully. I obviously have no idea what goes on inside TNA. I can only view it from experiences that I've had. And my experiences are from my professional world, where I've worked in business. And there is management that surrounds themselves with people who agree with them, and management who surround themselves with people who challenge them. And generally the latter are the ones who succeed, and Dixie strikes me as the one who hires the yes men. So I think that's been a big problem, in that a lot of people around her tell her, everything's great, everything's good, you're doing great, you're doing good, and no one has really challenged much in TNA. And that's what, from an outsider looking in, that's what it looks like to me.
And that's why Jim Cornette got fired.
Maybe, yeah, could be.
Well, any thoughts on Paige's contract with WWE?
Yeah, it's a shame that there isn't going to be a quality jobber for the new class of women coming in. That's about it. Didn't really care much about Paige when she was there. She'll probably go back to the UK, England, and become more over than she was in the WWE. That's because the British wrestling scene is supernova hot right now.
I completely agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, good for her. It's a shame that they got popped. I suspect that both of them getting popped on the same day was something a little bit less than over the table. I think it was more political than actual, they both happened to get tested on the same day. I don't believe that. But I'll never have proof of that. And, it seems like ADR left, obviously. And it seems like Paige is doing the same, or at least she won't be there long if she is still there. Every report I read is like, oh, she's there. Nah, she's not. She's there. Maybe not. So, if she does leave, like 100%, and shows up in another company, that's when I'll believe it. And I hope it's somewhere big in England, either in PCW or Progress or something like that. Something that can make a splash.
Mm-hmm. I agree in the point that it's unfortunate that it had to end the way it did, because I think that, Paige and Sasha would have been good, and, Paige and Becky, but I honestly think with how spotty things were, I think Paige is just following suit with how this year has been for the WWE, with, talent basically getting sick and tired of being booked a certain way.
Yeah. And it seems to be people from a certain, I don't want to say generation, because it's not like an age thing, but who entered the company around the same time, with the people who got onto the main roster or got their push started around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then had it completely halted for as bad as this sounds, for NXT guys.
Yeah.
And gals.
But I will say this, I only know this from actually doing the video on it. Last week's Indie Power Rankings top 10 included Sweet Saraya, and for those who may not know who she is, that is Paige's mother. I was shocked that Saraya is still actually competing, but with that being considered, I would say if Ricky Knight, which is Paige's dad, and Sweet Saraya still have their promotion, that is likely where Paige is going.
I hope that she can go more than one place and can I hope she gets a big tour.
Yeah.
She's good. I would say, for worker wise, out of like who I liked, out of the people who left the WWE this year, she was probably my favorite. Was never really a big Cody fan. Did not like Sandow that much. And Ryback, while fun, I don't think is a good indie worker. So Paige is probably my favorite. She had a couple really good matches.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
She's the one I would be most excited about seeing in the indies.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very likely she follows ADR wherever he goes, considering they're an item.
Yes. Maybe they'll both show up on a certain Wednesday night lucha-based television program.
I could see that. Paige and Evilise, maybe, going one-on-one.
Yeah, who knows? It'd be fun.
Yeah. Well, now's the part of the show where I give the guest the spotlight, and it's a guest spot where, I ask you for an obscure wrestler, and, to pick an obscure wrestler at an indie company, usually it's the indie company that the obscure wrestler works for, but if it's a retired wrestler, then you can pick either one. So, the floor is yours.
Okay, so for company, both of these are going to be based around my little region here in the Northeast United States. The company, I don't know how obscure they are, because I don't see too much about them on Twitter, and I know Twitter isn't the end-all be-all of wrestling, but Northeast Wrestling, NEW, they bring in a lot of older WWE guys, so you'll see like Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, Rob Van Dam, those names on there. But they do hold good shows, and I've been to one, and I am going back. So I would recommend, if you can find, they just did a show Under the Stars at a baseball stadium, which every indie company seems to be doing a show at a minor league baseball stadium. It's like the hit gimmick of 2015 and 2016. But I would hunt that down, because they had Cody Rhodes, they had a couple of big indie names, and then they had their normal guys who they have work. And for the indie wrestler of the week, I'm going to actually highlight a guy who worked very local, but He's very good. He works both the tri-state, so New York City, Upper New Jersey, and Connecticut. And he's a very good high flyer, very fluid in the ring, by the name of Sebastian Cage. And I would recommend YouTubing. He had a match against Brian Myers that was very good. A lot of his matches have been against other local indie guys. But I would recommend hunting down his matches and looking him up. I have never not enjoyed one of his matches. Now, I am a sucker for flips, so if you do like a 450 in a match, I'm going to be like, yeah, that was a great match. Don't care what else you did. But he's more fluid. He's not just a spot-to-spot type wrestler. Mm-hmm. And I've enjoyed a lot of his work. And I think if everything goes well for him, because he has a good look, he has good ring work and everything, I think he could become something big in the next 5 years. So I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear. Good to hear that things are going well, or that the Northeast is producing good talent. As I believe it was 2 weeks ago that my guest shouted out Limitless Wrestling, which is based up in Maine. But a shout out does go to, for this week, Northeast Wrestling, and I did see the end of the Cody Rhodes Kurt Angle match from August 27th, and the only reason why I remember the date is because I actually did a post on it, hyping up the show. Because also on that card, it was Jeff Hardy versus Jushin Liger.
Yes.
So I completely agree. If you're able to find the card, don't hesitate. And also a shout out to Sebastian Cage.
Yes.
Shout out to Sebastian Cage. Hopefully you get more eyes on you and can show more of an audience what you can do.
Yeah. And it's not just because he wrestles like 10 minutes down the road for me and I'm able to go see him a bunch. He's a really good worker, so go check him out.
Hey, it's alright. The first week me and Pro Wrestling Nation plugged All Pro Wrestling, and that's basically the same thing for him, because All Pro Wrestling's based, that's basically his hometown company, so, yeah. Well, now there's a new part of the show, and I think you know what part I'm talking about, because that's the only part that I haven't gotten to yet, and I skipped over it to get to the guest spot, and that's the Russo spot.
Yeah, bro.
So, before we get into it, I just want to read a little bit about it and detail to the viewer. So, Vince Russo, in my mind, changed the booking style of pro wrestling in the Attitude Era with Crash TV. Well, now it's your turn. If you could change anything about pro wrestling, whether it be booking style, a particular gimmick, or, any possible stigma of today's business, what would you change? And yes, I've seen your 1994 WWF Let's Play, so I know you can have some outlandish ideas. So, the ball is yours, my friend.
I'm actually gonna widen the net here. And so, I'll start with this. I don't have a Vince Russo impression. Out of anyone in the world, I should have one, and I don't have one. So I apologize to anyone who expects me to have one. But bro, here's what I'm thinking. Any character you have, anyone, it can't be easy. Wrestling characters are too easy. You got the Indian guy, you put a turban on him. You got the Asian guy comes in, you put a kung fu gi on him, he's karate. Throw that out. Too easy. Too simple. Think outside the box. So what I would do, I would make sure that wrestling doesn't stereotype or pick the easy gimmicks, and taking away the heavy stuff of like, hey, stereotypes have negative impacts on people's perception of themselves and everything. Take that aside for a second, because that's actually not the reason I would do it, although it's a very good reason to do it. The reason I would do it is the more complex a character you have, the easier stories are to tell. And I'll kind of circle it back. We were talking earlier about The Miz. The Miz is a complex character because he's not just this movie star guy. He didn't come in and become the movie star guy. He's the movie star guy who wants to be a wrestler. He wants to be known as being good. He has these layers to him that have been built into him over time, and they were built into him as a result of the stories that he was given. He wasn't just brought in and been movie star guy. When they had him just be movie star guy, he was terrible. His face turn was terrible because there was no complexity to it. The more complex a character that you have, and I don't always do this in TEW because, to be honest, it's not as funny or fun or easy to do. But if I were to be running $1 million company, every character would have that complexity, and every story would have that bite to it. I think that's why Lucha Underground works, is because every character has that. I think that's why a place like New Japan works. Even though the characters aren't as pronounced, they all have their different characters. They all are something. They're not just, I am American guy, I am Samoan guy. I'm Samoan guy in Bullet Club who has a brother, and we do this, and we beat people up because we're badasses, and that's the sort of thing. And even New Japan can work on how complex their characters are. And if I were to change wrestling and change the way it's viewed, I would do that. I would make characters complex again, make them mean more to the story instead of the story shaping the character.
Wow, that sounds interesting and very good answer.
Yeah. It's something I think about a lot, to be honest. And I know it's a weird thing to be like, oh yeah, I think about like how I would change the wrestling world, but it is something that crosses my old mind sometimes when I'm sitting at work or doing a drive home or something. So it's something I've thought about a bit.
Yeah, I can understand that, and I will make a couple points to what you said. Number one is, with the amount of time that you and I both spend around TEW and around wrestling in general because of TEW and because of recording and because of this and that, it's hard to not think about the wrestling business in that light.
Right.
And, yes, it may be complicated to attempt to make characters complex in TEW because of the fact that it's a game, but I also feel like somewhat it depends on the longevity of the season that you're doing, because the longer you're with a company, the more invested in the characters you are, and the more layers you can establish in the characters depending on the storylines.
And it's definitely true. I mean, a lot of my series do go longer, so I'm able to have these characters that have storylines and have backstories and everything. And I always try and utilize what they already had in the real world, so you don't have if I was doing WWE right now, you wouldn't suddenly have Brock Lesnar as a chicken shit heel because it wouldn't make any sense. So you want to try and utilize what's there in real life. But Brock Lesnar is a perfect example of a character that just is simple. He is come out and I'm going to beat people up. And I feel if it weren't for Paul Heyman, Brock Lesnar would be boring as all hell. So,
agreed.
I think that's one of the things that's like, alright, you have these characters, you have like a Kevin Owens who's a prize fighter, but what does that mean? Like, is he ever in a situation that challenges that, where, is he a prize fighter who's willing to put his family first, or him, or the prize first? Does he ever face someone who would be willing to go far enough to go after his family? Well, is he a prize fighter then if he's willing to fight for his family, or is he a family man that fights for the prize for his family? They started to touch on that, but then crept away from it. And it's almost as if they don't want the characters being complex, because then they might contradict themselves later with a storyline. But I would rather WWE have a contradiction later and have continuity issues than have entertainment issues and be boring.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I completely agree. And the other thing I wanted to build off your point is, so you're saying you wouldn't like a wrestling company that's like Wrestlelicious?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, it has its entertainment value when it's just like, this is the cheerleader, and this is the I haven't seen too much. I guess there were lunch ladies there, I think?
Yes, there was.
But, you know, this is this person, this is this person. But, now, if the character is just a gimmick, like a stereotype, in the most, like, non-wrestling usage of the word, like a gimmick as in something flashy to distract you, if that's all they are, you're going to be distracted by it, and then that's it. Your long-term investment is nothing. So for a company like Wrestlelicious that existed for 3 tapings, it might be okay. But long-term goal, if you're a WWE, if you're a TNA, if you're New Japan, Lucha Underground, anything, you don't want people being distracted by your characters. You want people being invested in your characters.
That's true. That is true. I completely agree. And just the point, because this is probably the most airtime Wrestlelicious has gotten since the ending of the season, which was, I believe, 6 years ago. A shout out to Brian Zane from Wrestling with Regret for actually being able to sit through anything involving Wrestlelicious. And also, if you want to know what Wrestlelicious is, if you want to watch anything from Wrestlelicious, then watch I think it was some sort of a rap, or basically they did a 2000s version of the Wrestle Rock Rumble. I will say I like the Wrestle Rock Rumble video better, but, you know, watch that if you're going to watch anything. Well, since I brought it up, what's your take on the Wrestle Rock Rumble?
I'll be honest, haven't come across it yet. Now I'm going to find it and watch it.
The best part of the video is Larry Zbyszko, because he's the only one that actually seems into it.
Okay. I'll definitely have to find it.
Yeah.
I do love me some Larry Legend from old school WCW, so I think that dude would be up for anything, though. He just seemed so into anything they gave him.
And, well, it was actually the AWA, and they actually also have Nick Bockwinkel, I believe, rapping in the video.
Oh, alright, I will hunt this down then.
Well, and if any of you want to see it, I'll drop it in the description, or, you know, let me know in the comment section or whatever. Just let me know if you want to find it. If you can't find it, I'll, you know, put up a link to it, because it's around. Because I also think it's even in that old Josh Matthews and Road Dogg show from when WWE couldn't stop putting up original content on their YouTube channel.
Oh man, that show was... You're bringing back some old memories with that show. Puppet H.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it was a good show. So back to the format. We now move to the question of the week, where, you know, basically I come up with a question, and even though basically this entire show has been me pretty much asking you questions, the focus of this is the question and just this. So, with John Cena showing up less and less and taking more outside the WWE activities, do you think his body may be wearing down on him after years of not taking normal amounts of recovery time from a variety of injuries?
Yes, I do, to be honest. I kind of liken it to Kobe Bryant in that not only has John been doing it for so long, but he's been doing it at the highest level for so long. Mm-hmm. So he's doing more matches that are longer lengths and more spots in them, although not that John Cena's spots are particularly dangerous, but every time you go into the ring, you're putting your body at risk. So he's doing more and more and more for a real long time now, 15, 16 years. So
yeah,
I think he's wearing down.
I can agree with that because, people forget, number one, I don't know, I always try and stress origins and, the concept of if history's not spoken of, it's forgotten. Cena didn't start in the WWE. Cena started in Ultimate Pro Wrestling out in California and was brought in to WWE after WWE bought UPW. And, all that aside, he only worked at a lower level for 2 years. Or even a year, because he was working with Brock Lesnar seemingly within a year after coming up on SmackDown. But he's been at the top, as you said, he's been on top for a long time. And, that takes a toll.
Yeah, you have a guy going full stop, 5 days a week with house shows. Only time off is because of injuries. There's no way to think that it's not taking a toll on him. I think that anyone who would say, oh no, John's just as good as he was 5 years ago is just trying to sell John Cena. They're trying to sell the idea of John Cena, because there's no way you could logically be that good. But if anyone could be, it would be John Cena, because he just consistently comes back from injuries stupid early.
Mm-hmm.
He has a freak body that seems to recover super fast. So
you think?
Yeah, it's just it's definitely, he's been going a long time, and his ring work in the last 2 or 3 years has been the best it's ever been. So not only is he just going, he's improving and getting better, which means he's spending the time outside of TV to learn new moves and learn how to do things differently. So he's getting better in his old age. Not that he's gray and old, but he's getting better as he gets more experienced. So it can't be easy doing, the springboard stunner after years of doing basically a slam and then a fist drop. Like, eventually your body's going to be like, whoa, buddy, when did we start doing these things? So,
yeah. Well, I found out his schedule for the rest of the year pretty much yesterday, and Cena will and is advertised for No Mercy, which is the beginning of next month, but is set to go back and start filming season 2 of American Grit at the end of October. But, with that being said, where is he now then, if he's not filming American Grit?
Yeah, I mean, that paints a picture. He's probably recovering or taking time. I mean, you had someone young like Sasha Banks have to take time off because of nagging injuries. I think WWE is also focusing more on, they've lost so many people younger, even going back to Edge and stuff like that, to injuries, that I think they're focusing a lot on, if you're hurt, sit. We have the bodies, we have the people, we have the talent to fill the spot until you're ready.
But, the report, which, by the way, credit to Ryan Clark from WZR Online, which I don't know where he, pulled it from, but it was probably Meltzer. He said that Cena would be done for the rest of the year if in fact it is that, I think it was, if it's the last 2 weeks of October into November that he's gone for true American Grit, that he is done for the rest of the year. So,
booking wise, if I'm booking WWE, I tell him to stay home from now until the Rumble.
But that's the thing. You've done the John Cena surprise Rumble entrant. You don't want to do it again.
Honestly, it's been so. That was in 2006. It's been 10 years. I think the crowd, especially now with that crowd, if AJ is still champion, if Cena comes back and wins, I don't think anyone in the world complains about that match again at WrestleMania. And yeah,
true.
Main eventing another WrestleMania, but this isn't the same Cena, and it's versus AJ Styles.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll say this. I think Cena could make a surprise return at the Rumble. But also, if the ratings are still hovering for SmackDown, I think I would let him return at a SmackDown.
That is, it does depend on ratings as well. And SmackDown, out of the two, is going to be the one to struggle. Because it's non-established. But, yeah, and that's the thing that, when you're fantasy booking, you don't have to worry about ratings as much. You are right. If come mid-October, SmackDown's struggling, you bring back Cena. You bring back the money. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. AJ versus Cena would be awesome for WrestleMania again. Because basically it just writes itself. But with 2 world titles now, Cena doesn't technically need to win the Rumble.
That is true, and there's a lot of other people who deserve a Rumble win more than Cena, so you are correct there. And while I think the moment of Cena coming back and playing hero again after being gone for 6 months or so, 4 months or so, it would be a cool moment. That may be me becoming more of a Cena fan talking than actual logic talking, because I don't know how wrestling fans would actually treat that.
Yeah.
They seem to have turned around on Cena in his last few matches and actually cheer him. The only time they really boo him is playfully now. In matches where he's up against a indie darling.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think anyone truly is like, oh, Cena's like what we heard 10 years ago, where he could be facing Sheamus and the crowd would be 100% pro Sheamus.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that way of thinking. But my idea is that they're pushing the new era so much this year. Having Cena win the Rumble and go against AJ at WrestleMania would basically be taking 2 steps back.
Good point. And it could even be a thing where Cena returns and gets thrown out by AJ. Like AJ comes and interferes.
Yeah.
And that story writes itself from there. Because you are right, having someone, if Finn's healthy, like Finn or someone else win the Rumble. Even Sammy winning the Rumble and facing Kevin at the Rumble would be, or at WrestleMania would be amazing. I just don't think Kevin holds on to this belt until WrestleMania, unfortunately. But I mean, there are definitely better people to win it. I'll just throw out there, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being Cena.
I'm not gonna lie, I would be too. I wouldn't be either, but yeah, I think there are better alternatives to Cena.
Mm-hmm.
Like a Cesaro, or I mean, I don't want to say Nakamura because I don't know if Nakamura is going to be up, but maybe Joe.
I mean, I don't think there's a better option than Shinsuke Nakamura to win the Rumble, but
that's true.
I also don't think there's a longer shot than Shinsuke. I think Shinsuke Nakamura has as much a chance winning the Rumble as Kenny Omega, or someone not in the company. Like, I don't think he's going to be on the main roster by the time WrestleMania comes around.
I can completely agree with that because they need to keep him down in NXT.
Yeah.
Unless they put the belt back on Joe, and then that's how they bring him up. But I think it's more likely a guy like Austin Aries would come up first, or Bobby Roode, or somebody like that would come up first before Shinsuke.
I think we're counting down the days until Bobby Roode shows up on a show, unfortunately. Because, and I don't say unfortunately because I don't like Bobby Roode, I just say unfortunately because there are people in NXT who I would rather see on Raw or SmackDown than Bobby Roode, and I think Bobby Roode could do a lot more help in NXT where he could help train people how to work TV and how to do this and that. But I think Bobby Roode's getting so over that it's almost becoming an Adam Rose-like situation where they're like, oh, we have to bring him up. So I have a feeling that might happen soon.
Mm-hmm. I could see that.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be good. I think it'll go the same way as Adam Rose, where he'll show up and it'll be fun for a week or two, and then people will be like, okay, I'm done with this.
No, I think it would be glorious.
Oh. I feel like the only person in the room who doesn't get a joke every time that happens. Maybe I'm just becoming a curmudgeon in my old age, but I'm just like, yes, it's a song, it's good, I enjoy it, but come on. It's still Bobby Roode.
I mean, I honestly think he would work wonders for SmackDown.
The sad thing is, he would work wonders for SmackDown, but that's more of a statement on how depleted SmackDown is.
A crapshoot on Raw, but I think he would do great on SmackDown.
He would be an exceptional mid-card heel on SmackDown. He would be great in the Miz's role right now.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Well, also, mind you, if I'm correct, I think Bobby is on the wrong end of 30, meaning he's closer to the middle of 30s, or late 30s even, than he is to early 30s.
I think he is a sneeze away from 40, if I remember correctly. But I am not the foremost expert on Bobby Roode's age.
You and me both, but, I mean, from what I remember, most, if not all, of the core roster of TNA was, when Bobby was with TNA, was at the wrong end of 30. Him, AJ, Aries, etc.
So my quick Google machine tells me he will turn 40 on January 1st.
Oh, good for him. 40 on New Year's Day.
Year's Day. But yeah, I mean, he is, if you're going to call him up, now's the time, because he's not getting any younger.
Yeah. But I don't think, even if he did, he would be world champion, because I think, with how his gimmick is, people would get too wrapped up in the song and the Fandango.
Right. It wouldn't matter how, he could be Nakamura, it wouldn't matter how good he is in the ring.
Yeah.
The song would overshadow him. And Bobby Roode never was the best in ring.
Mm-hmm.
He was always a character.
Mm-hmm.
Or a storyline, whatever he was doing at that time. Even his run as champion was the culmination of a storyline. So he's never really been a fantastic, like an AJ Styles or Samoa Joe worker. So he's not going to fill that role. But like I said, he could do what The Miz is doing. Not as well, but he could fill that spot. So
absolutely, I agree. Which, when the Miz, in my opinion, when the Miz drops the IC title, if you run it right, Miz could be a credible opponent for the WWE World Champion. Would they? That doesn't matter. Are they going to do that? It doesn't matter. They should do that because they need heels to face the champion.
I think so. The way they're going now with their champion being AJ. AJ is a heel right now. I don't know how long he's going to stay a heel, but he is a heel. At least as of pay-per-view, he was a heel. So unless they did a double turn on this SmackDown, which would be a very weird thing to do, but Miz would be the guy who the next man up to face AJ Styles beats, which is a perfectly acceptable role for him. But what it could be is the storyline, it could be not Miz versus whoever he's fighting, but always be Miz versus Daniel Bryan. And you have, some face step up and be like, hey, Daniel Bryan's good, stop messing with him. And Miz fights that person because he's just so angry at Daniel. And you can continue that storyline for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, after Dolph got sprayed with arrogance, I think that feud's going to keep going for a little bit.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be shocked if Dolph is the one that takes the IC title from him. Because he needs the win.
Mm-hmm.
He needs a good run where he wins matches, and holding the belt is a good way to do that.
Yeah.
And I would even have it be Daniel who's the reason why Dolph gets the win.
I agree. I completely agree.
Because, Miz keeps pushing his buttons and pushing his buttons, pushes his buttons. Eventually Daniel has to do something.
I also think that may lead to Daniel either getting suspended or some form of punishment because, the old saying of authority figures aren't supposed to touch wrestlers. So, they have to have a reason why Shane and Daniel are both there every week.
Oh yeah, definitely. Right now I've never liked the idea that there's basically two authority figures anyway. Because the perfect culmination of this was, I think it was Rusev in the ring on Raw, maybe 3 weeks ago, and Mick Foley came out, and Rusev basically was like, no, give me the real power. And then Stephanie McMahon came out. And it's like, alright, why is Mick Foley even here then?
To build up Holy Foley.
Yeah, that's it. He's here to shill his TV show and then go home.
Pretty much.
It doesn't work. There's no tension, there's no story. It's just that there's an extra person here for no reason.
Pretty much,
and
yeah.
It feels that way on SmackDown, unless Daniel... Actually, it feels that way for Shane. Shane feels like the superfluous part on SmackDown. And Daniel's the one who's doing all the storyline stuff.
Yeah, but that's the point. Shane and Steph shouldn't be there every week. Hunter came back to start his feud with Seth, but I'd rather go back to how it was with, Jack Tunney and Gorilla Monsoon. God, I'm showing my age, but it's not that I was a fan then. I was with Gorilla Monsoon, because that's when I was a kid, but it's just the idea of when the authority figure... Shane and Steph should be in the role of Vince,
Yeah.
Coming in when something is necessary for him to appear.
I think, first of all, everyone knows Jack Tunney is the most corrupt man in the WWF. And you can't trust that man as far as you can throw him. And second of all, yeah, I 100% agree. I think the overbearing authority figure angle has been worked to death. And it needs to be done, even in places that aren't WWE. Looking at you, TNA, and Lucha Underground, it's still done too much. I love Dario as much as any other Lucha Underground fan, but it needs to calm down in wrestling as a whole. I think one of the refreshing things about New Japan is there is no authority figure. Geto books it, but you would never know it by watching the show.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So, ironically, I think WWE has wanted to feel real for the last 3 or 4 years. They've been trying to book we're so real, we're so, get rid of all the Demon Kane and the gimmicky stuff, and we have real characters. But the authority figure thing completely eliminates that.
Yeah.
You don't buy it at all.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say to that point, I think that the reason why Gato is the way he is because he learned from Dusty. And, yes, I know there's at least one person saying, oh, Dusty worked and he was a booker. But if you watch any show that Dusty booked, it's not his name on the credits. It's right. Virgil Runnels. Right. To hide the fact that he was the booker.
And you have, Dusty's fingerprints all over NXT. William Regal. He shows up when he's needed. And that's it.
Exactly.
And that man is the most heel of all heels in kayfabe terms.
Exactly.
His finisher was cheating. But, he only shows up when he needs to.
Yeah.
So, there's definitely something to be said for that.
Yeah. I completely agree. Before I forget, Rick Martel, I'm still waiting on my shipment of arrogance. I know it took maybe 10 years for Maurice to get hers, but I'm still waiting on mine.
I don't think I'm ever getting mine. I've put in for a refund, but I'm told that there's a time limit on refunds, and I don't know, it didn't go over well. And then I got a threatening email, and I don't think it's happening. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, Jack Tunney must be handling it.
Yeah, Tunney, the most corrupt man in not just WWF but the world. I've said it.
And it's okay for us to be talking negatively about Jack Tunney because Kevin Nash did, so we can too.
No, of course. Everything that I know I learned from Kevin Nash, so.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you had bad experiences with him because he was the authority figure in 1994.
No, I mean, like, honestly, a lot of that joke stems from a couple different places. 94 authority figure where he's not good in the game. I think there's just a running joke between a couple people I know outside of wrestling. And also, and I'll give a quick shout out to them, It's Raining Men. If you've ever watched them on YouTube, they have a long running joke that Tunney's on the take, and anything bad that happens is Jack Tunney's fault. So shout out to IRM.
Oh, shout out to them. Speaking of shout outs, it's up to you now to give hype up anything you're doing and where people can find you and stuff like that.
Yeah, youtube.com/LetsPlayTEW, LetsPlayTEW. And one of the things that I'm doing right now that I'm super excited about is we are creating a universe inside TEW using one of the mods. So almost all of the wrestlers are going to be user-created content. And we're going to build up the universe from 1920. Some wrestlers are going to be generated by the game just so that we have a full complement of characters. I've already gotten about 20 or so people, which is enough to start a company. And we're going to just go from there and see how many different submissions we can get and where this universe takes us. And I'm super excited about it, so I hope you can jump in and make a character for yourself so that you can be a part of the action.
That sounds pretty cool. The
reaction has been real good to it, so I'm glad because I was super excited about it.
Yeah. I mean, as far as TEW goes, I'm loving the new game. I'm also, I gotta say, and give a shout out to those people who have actually seen the reliving the territories, but I know that's not the right title. But the newest series that I kicked off, which takes us back to the territories. I know the first one was proving time travel is possible, because I'm back in 1983 with World Class Championship Wrestling, and the reaction has been great thus far for that. As far as when that starts picking up again, I need to end one of the 3 Let's Plays I'm doing now. So I need to end one of those first. It will probably be WWE 2015, because as of next month, that would be going on for a year. I don't know when I'm going to end it, but I'm going to end it very soon. The hacker storyline still has not blown off yet. It will be blowing off very soon. If you have seen that Let's Play and you're listening now, it will blow off at WrestleMania and the night after, meaning something big happens at WrestleMania and something big happens the night after. The hacker is revealed at WrestleMania as well. They should be. That wasn't the original plan. The original plan was Sting to show up at WrestleMania for his first appearance in WWE and confront Vince McMahon at WrestleMania, which would have set up for a feud between Roman Reigns and Sting later in the year. But due to a bonehead decision on my part, giving Sting a vacation, that isn't going to happen, because Sting's going to miss WrestleMania. But the hacker will be revealed, and his partner will be revealed the next day at the night after WrestleMania. I just don't know if I'm going to be doing the night after WrestleMania and that's where I finish, or the pay-per-view after WrestleMania.
Okay, sounds like good stuff going there. And brother, don't I know about having too many series going at one time? So I feel your pain there, and I wish I had put that much thought into how I was ending most of my series, because I'm not gonna lie, most of them just end with, alright, I'm done with this. So,
well, that's how TNA and WCW 2000 will likely end. But, you know, just the fact that WWE, I had the idea from the start of the hacker. You know, now it's to the point where it's been so long since the last time the hacker was there that I don't remember the actual episode, because the last time he was there, I didn't put him in the title like I always do. Because, you know, once you do it once, you can't really do it again. You know, you probably know about reusing titles.
Right.
You know. But the other thing I wanted to say is, and I'm going to be building this up again, I forget the actual date, but it's sometime in the middle of October. It is the return after a year of How I Would Book It, which is the original Let's Play series. I changed the name of the series back last October when I discontinued How I Would Book It. How I Would Book It is back with the biggest, and it's the biggest one yet, because it's the Invasion.
Ooh, big one. Nice.
And I've never done the Invasion in TEW. I know you did, what was it? Was it the Invasion, or was it just WWE 2000?
2004, so it was a couple years after the Invasion, but it was still that time period.
Yeah, but I have, I think, 5 pages of notes at this point for the Invasion of what I would like to do, and it will be by far the longest series yet.
Nice. Good stuff.
And I will be doing a lot of pre-booking.
Nice.
I mean, that's it from me, but, you know, I can talk about, I'm sure you're the same, but I can talk about TEW forever.
Oh yeah, but I don't want to turn your show into a 3-hour show, so I'll say this. Thank you so much for having me on. It's so awesome to talk wrestling. I love doing it, and obviously having someone who knows what the hell they're talking about, like you, it makes it a lot more fun. So thanks for having me on, and thanks for the chat.
Well, I thank you for joining me.
Okay.
And if you liked the video, then leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this that you can only find right here at Wrestling Express. Till next time. Later.